Hi, this is Chris Foreman from Madness, and you're listening to the Stateside Madness podcast.
Hi there, folks out there. I'd like you and me, Tommy McGuire's combo.
Hello, and welcome to the Stateside Madness podcast, the one and only podcast of the official Madness American fan service. I'm Lori, along with my co-host Polly, here to bring you news, reviews, and deep dives into the nutty sound of the British pop band Madness. Hello, and welcome back to the Stateside Madness podcast. I'm Lori.
And I'm Polly.
And we have a little bit of a surprise today. We're doing a little bit of a change up to what we were originally going to do. So I know that we had said that this was going to be the episode on the Liberty of Norton Folgate, but we have a special surprise for our listeners.
So we are going to be joined by Madness's current and you could say sort of longtime tour manager, Steve Martin. So recently we've been connecting with Steve, and he was nice enough to offer to do the podcast with us, and we just couldn't pass that up. We're very, very excited for it.
Yeah, this is really going to be a cool conversation. I have so many questions for Steve. This is going to be awesome. So for those of you that are wondering about the Liberty of Norton Folgate, which, you know, again, I'm excited about that. We've been working very hard on that episode. We're going to postpone that. So the Liberty of Norton Folgate is going to be a two-part episode. We're going to do part one, episode 23. That's going to be on June 27th. And then part two, which is episode 24. That'll be July 11th. Polly, you and I are kicking around some ideas of possibly doing a Facebook watch party.
That's right. That would be new for us. And we might be trying to show the Julian Temple concert recording of Liberty of Norton Folgate.
Yeah, and I think we're going to do that on July 4th, right? Independence Day, Liberty of Norton Folgate. See what I did there?
Oh, I get it.
Ah. Hey, have you heard anything, Polly, about our last fan engagement episode?
Yeah, that I have. And those of you who check, the different groups dedicated to Madness will probably have heard a little bit of this. But it was very well received, a lot of chatter about it, and a lot of messaging to us, folks thanking us and saying it was a great episode. That's always really, really cool to hear. As I've said a few times, I'm surprised that people listen to me or listen to us, I guess, in the first place. So it's fantastic to know how well it's been received. So thank you so much.
And we had some really, really good guests in that fan engagement episode too. The really lively discussion that ensued. So thank you again to Megan, Maria, Molly, and Scott for participating. It was a great episode. We really love the way it turned out.
All right. So, Chris, what time is it?
Showtime!
Just look at us now. How can you refuse half my kingdom I offered you? And in return, all that I ask is you walk with me.
So joining us right now is Steve Martin. Steve has been the tour manager for Madness for, 15 years now, Steve?
I think it's longer, actually. I think it's on and off. I've kind of shared the responsibilities mainly with a guy called Andy Franks for about 20 years. And we're both it sounds a bit egotistical, but we're quite respected tour managers in this business. So we kind of get other artists that we work with. And if the boys are not that busy, then we have to kind of unfortunately prioritize the other bands. So we used to share the load, and believe me, it is a load sometimes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is really cool having you. So what does a tour manager do exactly?
Well, tour manager in the old days, and sometimes these days, he's kind of the kind of head guy. He normally gets employed by the artist or the artist manager, and he comes in and he works out how much money the guys want to spend on a tour. Obviously, they work out what their gross income is going to be and what their net income is going to be, more importantly. And then I'm kind of then go away and they tell me what sort of percentage they would like to have left in the bank. And then I go away and I then cut the cloth accordingly. So I will then go in and with Madness, it's obviously there's 6 principals, but we have 3 brass players and we have a percussion player. So I employ them. And then we put the production together and we do the travel and all the logistics and all the money. And that's what a tour manager does. And underneath the tour manager is the production manager who, well, not underneath, it's kind of, because I do a lot of production as well. So we kind of work very close together with the band on producing the production, the element of the show, and putting quite a lot of people on the road and touring with the band.
That really sounds like a lot of work.
It can be. There's some tours I've done, it's been harder. I mean, sometimes you can have as many as sort of 20 or 25 trucks of equipment. Madness probably do 5 or 6 trucks. So, that's how we tend to gauge how busy and how involved the tour can be. But yeah, Madness tend to keep it, they don't sort of spend vast fortunes on their shows, but they do, they always want the show to be right, and they always are happy to put their hands in their pockets and make it, a good spectacle for the fans and that.
So Steve, you've worked with a variety of artists. So you've seen the whole spectrum then of the sort of the fancier, probably more dynamic tours, and then probably seen a fair amount of the maybe more economical tours. What are some of the highlights from the very, I suppose, either end of the spectrum?
I think the highlight for me, I did Live Aid, the original Live Aid show at Wembley Stadium in 1985. I was working for the promoter who was called Harvey Goldsmith, and I was also working for an artist on the day called Nick Kershaw. I was quite young, relatively young in those days. So that's probably still the highlight, the scale of a show that I've been involved in. And it's still, it's incredible just to think back on that, I think it was June 85. So that was a wonderful day. Working with artists such as David Bowie and Peter Gabriel is another kind of, was a great joy, and incredible artists, and very, very, very sort of aware of the kind of show that they wanted to do, and a very large scale tour. But I've also done sort of small clubs and pubs and theatres. So I was always a massive fan of Madness. Always. I mean, I was a fan right from the very beginning. So, to get the call to go and work with the guys, honestly and truly was wonderful for me. I still picture myself when I'm at the side of the stage,
How did that come about? How did you get to be Madness's tour manager?
I think what it was is that I think the management they've got now, I've been with the boys for about 15 years, and I had about 5 years with a previous manager, a guy called Peter Rudge, who was a very well-known manager. He used to be a tour manager, funny enough, for the Rolling Stones and the Who. And I was working with another artist that he managed, and he asked me to come in for a meeting with, I think it was Barzo, actually. I met Barzo in Camden Town, in a wine bar. I think he was the only member of the band to turn up, which is not unusual. And that was good. And I, fortunately, I've got on with the guys ever since. So I've had a fantastic 20 years.
Cause I wasn't there, and don't believe it just isn't fair. You listen to their side, now listen to mine. Come think of the story, show you find me some time. Now pass the blame and don't blame me. Just close your eyes and count to 3. 1, 2, 3. I'll be gone as you forget.
So Steve, I suppose maybe something we should talk about is the Lady Killers tour, and offer a little perspective on that if you could, because I guess for all intents and purposes, it is a Christmas tour. And that's something that there's not really the equivalent of in the United States, unless it's a more purposeful type of Christmas tour where the theme of it is.
Yeah, you guys have a
Christmas.
lot of sort of radio show tours.
Yeah.
I know a lot of radio stations have these kind of big kind of shows in the arenas in America around the same time. Yeah, it's something the band have been doing now for, oh my God, well, since I've been with them, to be honest with you. They tend to do it sort of every 2 years. They used to do it every year, but I think they just felt that it was possibly best just to do it every couple of years. And it's been, I mean, we're still playing the same venues. We haven't sort of scaled down the size of the venues in that time. We're still playing the O2s in London. I don't know if your American audiences are aware, but it's about 15, a bit like a Staples Center in LA or whatever, Madison Square in New York. And this year, we've actually, not only are we doing the O2 in London, because of the demand for tickets, we're now also added a second show at the Wembley Arena, which is incredible for this band to be doing 2. That's probably about, well, this could be as many as 30,000 people of the 2 venues,
That's really amazing to me. I mean, especially after all these years that they're still drawing that kind of audience. That's fabulous.
It is. And the great thing is also, we've also got another London band joining us for the first time, and that's Squeeze, of course, who I used to be the tour manager of Squeeze as well. And I'm from South London, Madness are from North London, but Squeeze is from South London. So it's going to be North and South, London bands on tour, which is going to be quite scary. I think Squeeze have also been an amazing addition to the bill as well. I mean, I think personally, especially after the pandemic, hopefully after the pandemic, it's going to be a really hot ticket for most people.
I'm jealous. I love Squeeze. I wish that
oh my God,
that tour would come over here. That would be awesome.
One of my favorite bands as well. I'm so fortunate to work with both the bands, and we've not really done much planning yet. I mean, we're just working on the budgeting, like I said, just in the way of what we can afford. But we're going to. I mean, Chrissy Boyd and Mark Bedford tend to be quite heavily involved in the production and the design of the show, and we have a fantastic production manager called Pete Hosier, who works very closely with the boys, and we were all together on the recent Scream at the Palladium as well, where we put that production together as well.
Now that's the Get Up that you're talking about, right?
Yes, yeah, we filmed that at the Palladium about a month ago.
That was absolutely amazing. We watched it live over here. It was so well done. How did it come about?
Well, it was very difficult, to be honest. I mean, in fairness, I think the management, Gary and Hugh, deserve a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? They really drove it. They really wanted. I think the idea. Everyone knew that the band would kind of have been probably too quiet around the first time the pandemic hit, and most artists and most bands were trying to get online and doing a stream, and we wasn't slow on the uptake, but we were very keen to try and do something different. We didn't want to just go into a studio with like 3 or 4 cameras and, you know, and just sort of do a very quick sort of film and then bosh it out onto the internet. So the management were very, very keen for us to do like something special. And I think obviously we then had the idea of doing it somewhere like the London Palladium. And we got Charlie involved because I think Suggs was a friend of Charlie's, the guy who wrote the script and that. And but then we had lots of problems because of the pandemic. We had lots of issues with social distancing. We had a few problems with the financing. We had a few problems with getting the right production company involved because we wanted to work with someone that we could trust and someone that we felt could not only film a concert correctly, but also do the kind of vaudeville and the theatre and the kind of sketches as well. And we struggled initially to find someone that we were really happy with. So we got it was postponed twice. And at one point, I honestly didn't think it was going to happen. But as I said, the management, in fairness, they kept pushing and pushing. And well, the boys spent quite a lot of money on it. In fairness to the boys, they knew there was no money in it for them. They knew, you know, we would have had to have sold like a lot of tickets to even, you know, to make a profit. But the boys were very, very keen, genuinely, to give something back to the fans because we've been away for so long, and we especially, you know, we lost the American tour, which I know was a huge thing for you guys, and it was for us as well. We were all so looking forward to it. Fortunately, it's been pushed back till next year, and that's, fingers crossed, that's going to go ahead. So we were very keen to do a special and not just a concert, a live concert online.
Well, you're not jumping on the literal bandwagon, I guess, and doing live streams early on in the pandemic was probably kind of beneficial for you because early live streams, I don't know that anybody really wrapped their head around what to do. And some of the bands, it was almost depressing watching some of the early live streams because people would instinctively wait for audience applause. The banter that they'd have in between songs was just not there. So I think taking a step back and trying to figure it out really served you well in the get-up.
That's very astute of you to say that, and it's really good that you noticed that as well. We also felt the same, and in fairness, we had big concerns about even doing at the Palladium. As you guys know better than most, this band thrives on a live audience. I mean, every band does, of course, but when you're playing that kind of high octane kind of music that the boys play, and there's a lot of audience participation points in the songs which have grown in the years. And it was even for us, it was still very weird, Phil, because we filmed the show as live as possible as we could. Obviously, we had 2 sets. We had the Barzo 1978 bedrooms, you know, rehearsal, and then we had the normal Palladium show. So we did both try to do those 2 sets as live as possible, back to back. We had to stop occasionally because of a technical issue, but it was very strange not having that audience at the end of each song. And the boys, I know the boys, some of them, at least 2 or 3 of the boys were not exactly on board with the stream idea anyway, because of that concern. Because, you know, it's who wants to play, you know, it is, you mentioned the word, I think you said it was depressing. Who wants to look out at a load of empty seats, you know, and it's difficult, but you know, I think we managed to get by, and I'm really pleased you enjoyed it. I was genuinely very pleased with the way it. You know, I was pleased with Paul Weller. I thought Weller was fantastic as well, and you know, so I was very pleased the way it all turned out as well. Then the boys played great.
How did you get Paul Weller and Roland Gift involved?
Well, Roland Gift is a friend of Mike Parsons, and they used to sort of wave to each other in the street in London. Not much more than that. It was like, oh, you're the guy from, oh, you're the guy who's being Fine Young Cannibals, and that was it really, like a nonchalant wave, you know. I think Suggs knows everybody, but Suggs may have known him as well. I think also once he slept on the boys in some of the boys' bedrooms on a tour once. Before he was in Fine Young Cannibals. That's what Chrissy Boy says as well. I mean, you'd like to think that Chrissy Boy would have given me his bed, but that was never going to happen. And then Paul is a long-time friend and a fan of the band. We did a concert at the on Clapham Common a couple of years ago. Beautiful baking hot day, and Paul decided to come down, and we did Heatwave, I think it was. Maybe it was, I can't remember. But we had two girl backing singers as well who were friends of mine who got up, and we did the rehearsal backstage in in one of the porter cabins, literally 15 minutes before they went on stage. And Wello is such a humble, lovely, down-to-earth guy. I mean, we did a rehearsal. The boys have got this this new complex, a studio that we've built in the last 18 months, a rehearsal room, which is where we rehearse for the shows, and the boys also write songs. And Paul just turned up on his own there. We did 1 hour with him rehearsal, and he was incredible. He just gets it.
Yeah, Weller always delivers, and yeah, the Heatwave cover was fantastic. I only got to see it, on YouTube over here, but seeing Roland Gift was great. I think particularly for American fans because
they're a big band, yeah.
Yeah, he's a great deal more versatile than we remember over here, because everybody remembers him really as the guy with the falsetto thing from that song. But yeah, he's just incredibly talented, and yeah. I was surprised a great deal more by him than Weller, because Suggs and Paul seem to hang out quite a bit. But yeah, so that was a little expected. But Roland Gift, that made it for me. I think that was probably my favorite.
What did you think of the song we chose, or he chose to do on that show at the Palladium? Did you enjoy the song?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it definitely demonstrates, the range that he's really not known for over here.
Yeah, it was his choice. We originally we had a Dusty Springfield song lined up for him, and the boys had rehearsed that, and it was sounding good. And then he sort of threw us a bit of a curved ball and said, "Oh, it sounds good, but I just don't like the song." And he said, "How about Concrete and the Clay?" So that was, and then the boys wanted to do it, but they wanted to do it in a more sort of reggae kind of dub kind of way, and yeah, I think it worked. I think it worked okay. I think it worked really well in the end.
The concrete and the clay beneath my feet begins to crumble, but love will never die, and we'll see the mountains tumble.
Yeah, so we were quite pleased with both the artists were, and they were both so easy to work with as well, and it was just great having everyone back together again, because that's the first time, not only the band, but obviously we had the same crew. We had the same crew for years as well. So it was just wonderful, not only to have the band back together, but also all our crew as well.
And that's got to be really hard too on the crew with the pandemic and the loss of work. It's
been, I can't tell you, we've probably been the worst hit of anybody, because, we can't do anything at all, really. None of us have worked at all. I mean, if you take the stream at the Palladium out of the equation, some of these guys haven't worked since last January. That was the last time we worked with Madness. Yeah, it's been hugely difficult, and it's not going to get any better now, at least until the autumn and maybe the winter or the fall.
Has it been really bad over there? Because like everything over here is starting to open up now. Now that we have the vaccine.
I know. I'm hearing some good things, and I'm seeing so many people getting. I mean, we're doing amazing with our vaccinations. I mean, like you guys have since you've had a change of leadership. But yeah, no, I'm seeing. I've got a lot of friends in America, and oh my God, I mean, even like I've got 32, 33-year-old friends who've had both jabs. So we're doing well. We're doing good. We're hoping they're going to open up 100% in 2 weeks' time. But now, of course, they've started to make noises that it's going to be delayed. And they're very clever the way they drip feed information to the media to soften the blow. So it could be maybe possibly middle of July before we get back to complete normality. But the other thing about our tour is, and the other with the promoters who we need promoters to be able to do our shows. We can't afford, and neither can the promoters, to do socially distant shows. So we need to have full capacities to pay for the production. I mean, we have to spend. I can't tell you, but it's a huge amount of money just before we even leave to go on the road. So we have to have full capacities to be able to make this work. And that's what we're all praying for.
Well, for our listeners, number one, get vaccinated if you're not already vaccinated. But then as these venues start opening up, please start getting out, start supporting live music, start seeing these bands. This is a lot of people's livelihood, and they really need that leg up right now. Yeah,
I mean, we're really looking forward to coming to see you guys next year. I mean, I've not done a US tour with a band, and for me, it's going to be. I mean, I love some of the venues that we're playing as well, and we genuinely cannot wait to play in front of American audiences. I wish it was longer, but I suppose we just have to be a little bit. We have to put our toe in the water, see how it goes. But we really hope, and we know that you guys are going to have a fantastic. Well, are you guys hoping to come to the shows?
Definitely. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to be planning some Stateside Madness meetups to coincide with some of the shows.
Marvelous. Yeah, great. Yeah, we'll do some meet and greets before the show and have a glass of wine or two after, possibly.
Well, that's awesome. And I think, Polly, you're going to just about every show, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to every show but Las Vegas. So,
right. Yeah, you're not a Vegas man then.
I don't want to visit the town where my child's college fund resides.
Oh, I'm not a massive fan of Vegas personally.
Oh, I love Vegas. I mean, I was married in Vegas. I have 2 aunties that live in Vegas. I just don't know about being in an outdoor festival in Las Vegas.
Yeah, no, I would love to party there, and I would love to, just to go and have a bit of a nice weekend. But working there,
it's a different.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I love the Greek. I love the Greek theatre in LA. That's something I love going back to that venue. And I think it's the what venue are we doing in New York? Is it
Hammerstein?
Yeah, Hammerstein. Yeah. So that should be good. That's what we call a good old knees up, I reckon, in that venue. That'd be great.
What can we expect on this American tour, especially for somebody like me who's never seen Madness live before?
Oh my God, really? Listen, they are fans. I mean, the great thing what I love about this band is there's so many other bands who still, are under a banner of a name that they've had for many years, and there's like maybe only one original member, But these are, 6 of the 7 original guys, and all we do is we augment the brass. We, just to give Tomo a bit of a hand. We've got this great brass section that we've had for a number of years, and we have Nez on percussion, and it's an hour and 20 minutes of just absolutely, greatest hits, but with the same energy, the same tempo. They could still be 20, 22, 23 years old up there. I think good light show, great sound, good video. But the most important thing of all is, just the boys having an incredible time on stage, because they are just also fantastic musicians. That's what people sometimes, they don't get enough credit sometimes. They really are. I mean, every single guy in the band is a great musician, and sometimes people forget that. And I think they really enjoy playing America. They enjoy America and Australia, because we tour a lot in Europe and the UK. So coming out to America and Australia is always nice.
Hard to believe, but there was a time when I was younger, and all the nights and days were long, and every day just getting stronger, like a sunflower in the sun, in the sun.
I know for a fact that we would like to be doing America more often than we have done. And I mean, we would like to do it yearly if we could, or certainly every 2 years. What I mean by putting our toe in the water is ticket sales are amazing. But I agree, and this is, I'm not knocking the agent or whatever, but it's a shame that we're not playing places like Chicago as well. But that's what I mean about maybe, they're probably looking at locations that are what are considered as a kind of a hotbed of Madness fans. But it would be nice just to maybe broaden it slightly and maybe go to locations that we haven't been before. Because that's, maybe do, instead of a week of dates or 10 days, maybe do like a month or whatever. The band don't like being away too long from home, that those days are gone. But I certainly think they can handle 2 or 3 weeks away in the States. And that's something that we would like to, I know for a fact that we would really like that to happen.
So I'm curious, is the set list that the band plays in America, is it the same set list that they play in the UK? Or do they play more of the hits in America because maybe the fans don't know a lot of their more recent stuff?
Well, it's what we tend to find is that the set is always kind of a greatest hits set anyway. We always have probably 10, what I call top 10 hits. I know that not necessarily in America, but obviously everywhere in the world, we tend to play all the hits. Then they also have a lot of favorite album tracks from the first album, perhaps. And then but they're always very, very keen to also play new songs. They respect and they understand about the retrospective, the kind of retrospectivity of the band. They have to respect that. They have to play the songs that everyone wants to hear, but they also still write songs and they still record albums. And it's really important to them that, and it's quite incredible. Just a few weeks ago, we was in the studio and they were writing songs together, and they're still writing some great stuff, and they love to play it, and it keeps them fresh as well. It's very important that they just that keeps them on their toes when they have 3 or 4 new songs in the set. I think they really enjoy that aspect of the show.
I think what a lot of people would really like to know, maybe it's Madness, maybe it's one of the other bands you worked with, but being a tour manager and seeing all the hijinks, or even just seeing things go very, very wrong, you must have a story in there of something just virtually inexplicable.
Well, I'm not sure if it went wrong. It kind of did, and was it inexplicable. We were playing a festival in Paris, and I meant to Google the date, and I forgot to do it. But it was Rock on Seine in Paris. It was a big out, 100,000 people, and there was 2 stages, and Oasis were on stage A and we were on stage B. Each stage was on different parts of the site. So anyway, we played our show, and well, first of all, we'd heard rumors. Originally, the promoter wanted us to be on the same stage as Oasis, but we found out that Oasis wouldn't play on the same stage as Madness. There's quite a I don't know if you guys are aware. There's quite a rivalry between Manchester and London, and Northerners and Cockneys. I don't know if you know Cockneys, but yeah, we're Cockneys and they're Northerners. And I don't know whether it was because of that or whether they were just genuinely concerned that Madness was a hard act to follow. I think I would be if I was a band like Oasis, even though huge at the time and an amazing, repertoire of songs. But one band you do not want to go on after is Madness. And so they made us play on this other stage. And we had an incredible performance. And Stubbs was having a little bit of fun at Oasis' expense. And we finished the show. It was incredible. The boys came back to the dressing room, which was next door to Oasis's dressing room. And we were sweating, or the boys were sweating and toweling off and having a few lagers. And next thing, we just heard this incredible commotion going on next door in the Oasis dressing room. And we heard stuff being thrown and guitars being chucked and people, like a big fight going on. And we poked our head out of our tent, our dressing room, and we saw Liam and Noel going at each other, literally with guitars, trying to smash each other around the head. Guitar stands being thrown. Noel's security guy stopping Liam, Liam's security guy stopping Noel. Anyway, that was the night that Oasis broke up. Noel decided there and then in that sort of 30-minute changeover period to get back into his car and drive back to the Eurostar train and go back to London. And of course, Oasis, it was announced that Oasis were not going to perform that night. So the promoter was left with a situation that he had no headliner. So he then approached the management and myself and Suggs to ask if we could headline the second stage as well. And logistically, it was a problem because all our equipment was on the other stage and it was all being packed down and put into a truck. And after some quite heavy negotiations, very heavy negotiations, we decided to get our gear brought over to the Oasis stage, set up, and we then performed another show the same evening on the other stage instead of Oasis. So so we had Noel going back to London on the train, and we ended up performing twice in Paris on the same night, and the Oasis boys and the rest of their band were, sculpted off into the dark that night, and the boys ended up getting double bubble, as we call it.
Yeah, I love that story, and I love Suggs's little commentary on Oasis in his stage play, and having seen Noel Gallagher on a train that they were all on board, and just being able to palpably sense how sad the guy was.
Yes. It was quite true because he actually, him and his brother were actually traveling separately to Paris, and we were on the same train going to Paris when we saw Noel, and you're quite right, and he was not a happy guy.
Yeah, and not to question the Gallagher brothers' motivations for why they were in music or whatever like that, but Suggs's point was that be in it kind of for the right reasons and for the enjoyment of it. And I have every sense that on the whole, Madness enjoy being rock stars.
Yes, I honestly, one thing about these guys is they are very normal guys, and if they wasn't enjoying it still, they wouldn't be doing it. To have this band still together after so long, and as I mentioned earlier, to be the same band, this is very unusual. It's very unusual, and fortunately, they're all in good health. They all look after themselves relatively well, and we've got a few years ahead of us as well. But no, they do really enjoy it. I mean, there's certain things we have to do to make them enjoy it. I mean, there's certain travel that they don't like doing. I know all the correct buttons to press. You have to take a lot of stress out of the touring for them. They don't enjoy that. They don't like sound checking. They don't like traveling. So if we can get a nice comfortable train for 2 or 3 hours where we can have a bite to eat and a glass of wine, that's great. If the journey from the train station is like 5 minutes instead of 2 hours, that's great. And they just like to arrive maybe 1 hour before the show, meet a few of the fans before they go on, and that keeps the machine well oiled. Well oiled is a good way of putting it.
And then speaking of keeping the band happy, I think I mentioned in my email to you, like there's this legend that Van Halen, they had in their tour rider that they had to have a bowl of M&Ms backstage with all the brown M&Ms removed. So does anybody in Madness have like a really bizarre tour rider or request or anything like that?
Not bizarre. I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys. You wouldn't expect me to be any different. We have got one of the biggest ride. I mean, we have these things in England called off licenses where we sell booze. The dressing room sometimes looks like a pub or an off license. I've never ever seen so much booze in a dressing room. And if there's not enough, we also have drinks in flight cases in case we run out. And you know what? It's not necessarily for them. It's they always insist on, after every show, to have family and friends and a few fans back in the dressing rooms to have some drinks. That's really important to them. They're just not the kind of band. Some of the other artists I work with, I've got the car waiting by the side of the stage, and off it goes within while the band is still playing the last chord. But no, these boys, it's all about, they really want to enjoy themselves, and they do. No, the only thing, Tomo can be a bit of an old girl. He likes sushi. He likes sushi, and it's kind of strange to use. One thing about Tomo, he's an interesting character. And you think, if I could only go back in time, Tomo, when you was like not 18 or 19 or 20, and if I had said to you, do you want a bit of sushi, you would have gone, do me a favour. He would have just laughed at himself. But yeah, him and Mike Barson love a bit of sushi after a show. We haven't really got anything other than that, really. We don't have anything. They sometimes have their own beer. They like their own. They've got their own brand of beer, which they like to have as well. But no. Our rider is. We don't have too much on it apart from booze, to be honest with you.
Staggering home, the headlights throw a shadow up and upon friends and loved ones that have done no wrong, but no longer mean anything to me. Oh, am I mumbling on into a crystal glass that echoes a song? The enticement invites you along, a pump of exterior colour. But come the morning, shivering and contorted, to boulder on the brink for just another Cinco. Take me down. For libation, stick a rock in my foundation. Well, pick up my relations and put me on probation, cause I take you down for one last round.
So I've got no rock and roll rider stories, I'm afraid. No M&Ms. Funny, a lot of young bands. I've got this thing about riders is that some of the how can I say, certain artists have got the crazy riders like Champagne, Bollinger, 25 bottles and caviar, and they think they're being quite clever. They're thinking that get the promoters to provide everything that we need. But of course, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and they're paying for it. Every single thing. If you've got a bottle of beer and a packet of crisps in your rider, you're paying for it. So some of these guys, they honestly do think that they keep laughing. They just can't believe how lucky they are because they've got crates and crates of champagne and caviar. But believe me, that all comes off the check at the end of it.
No, being a thrifty Yankee, I would totally pack my own sandwiches if I was going on tour. I'd try to save every bit of that money.
Well, the only thing we do spend money on, we have especially in Europe, not so much in America, because in America you tend to use local catering, but we have caterers that go on the road with us the whole tour. So we've got our own chefs and our own cooks, and we also have our own ovens and microwaves and crockery and cutlery that goes in the truck for the lights and the PA. And that's, to be honest with you, that's a godsend. That keeps everybody sane. To eat well on the road, because we have a lot of people on the road. We can have as many as 50 people with us, So it's really important that everyone eats really well. And that's one thing the band could save money on that, but they're insistent that everyone eats well and gets looked after.
Right, here we go.
Don't worry, I'm not going to sing. To you. Have you seen Jane? No, man, better catch a train. Train you wait a long time. No, I'll catch a vine. What, not a fruit? No, man, that's a fruit. Then give me a bite. Save it for tonight. It's not unusual.
Polly, you had a question about Tomo.
Oh, Tomo.
So-
I love him. Oh my God. If you all think you know Tomo, and he is exactly as you can imagine. The guy is the most dysfunctional human being I've ever met, but my God, what an absolutely beautiful guy and what an amazing musician.
Well, so the question that Polly had written here was, how much money does band management put aside for bail for Tomo?
But not only bail, but every train he misses, and we have to buy another ticket. Every hotel room that he accidentally messes up, we have to get another hotel room. He'll have to get another taxi because he's late. He'll either come down 2 hours early and get the time wrong, or he'll come down 2 hours later and get the time wrong. He'll go to the wrong platform at a train station. He'll go to the wrong airport. And he knows what he's like. He even says to me, he goes, "Look, Steve," he said, I don't mean to be like this. He said, I don't mean to be making your life difficult, but he said, I've always been the same. I'm just not very good with logistics, yeah, it's Tomo is such a integral part of Madness, isn't he? I mean, I know it's an obvious thing to say, but people don't realize how much the guy's playing. He's literally playing non-stop on every single song. And he's got bundles of energy as well. He's a fantastic character.
So that whole thing in the Get Up where he's like late and then trying to get into the building, that was actually accurate.
Yeah. That's based on, in fairness to Charlie Hickson. Charlie Charlie is a fan of the band, and he's read the autobiographies. He's read, I mean, he is. Tomo is, for me, as a tour manager. Well, they're all a pain in the arse at times. I mean, they are the most dysfunctional band I've ever worked with, and I've worked with 16, 17, 18-year-old boy bands, but these guys are, I wouldn't say worse, and they're on par. They're very hard to keep together. They're very hard to manage. But do you know what? I wouldn't change it for anything. This is one of the greatest bands of all time for me. I love them.
The expression that we use over here is herding cats.
Yeah,
Like
herding cats. Yeah, absolutely. But Tomo is. There's not a day that goes by where Tomo does not create a headache for me and lovely Jim, who's been with the band at the same time as me, their personal assistant. Jim, and he's my assistant as well. And oh my God, poor old Jim. Jim should have no hair. He's got a luscious head of hair, actually, Jim. But how Jim remains sane, I do not know. Honestly, I cannot tell you how difficult they can be sometimes. Difficult just with planning and logistics and getting them together, getting them to agree on something. It's tough, but that's what makes them so unique. It's like, it's also wanted to say that on the recent Palladium stream, the Get Up, Chrissy Boy was heavily involved in that. Most of those ideas, obviously came from Charlie, but Chrissy Boy had a huge input on that as well. I must give Chrissy Boy Foreman some kudos on that.
Yeah, and just a little bit about the Get Up. We get dribs and drabs of news about Madness over here that don't necessarily originate in the UK. Of course, we can check in with our UK peers and find out all sorts of stuff. But Madness is actually starting to have a little bit of a presence again in the United States, either through commercials or, in this case, a little bit in the way of some light media referring to the Get Up. And part of that was talking about how you kind of cracked the code a little bit of how to make the live stream interesting by incorporating a story in it. And one thing that got written about a bit, and I don't know if this originated in the UK media and it just got here, but was talking about just the band being in the audience and heckling themselves, and how that made it both endearing, and it was an opportunity to do something in the space in between songs. And I thought the references to The Shining incorporated in the story just was always giving me something to look for during the show. I thought it was, I was going to say, no matter what, after I saw it, that it was a fantastic show, because that's how I am, because I'm a Madness fan. But I think I can legitimately say it was just fantastically entertaining.
No, it's so good to hear that. I mean, because obviously we do get feedback, but just to see and hear it, that's great. Because I was very proud on the night after I watched it. I was very, very proud. I thought the sound was great as well. Over the last few months, we've got a new sound engineer, and I thought he did a fantastic job. And the heckling was interesting because that was quite ad-libbed. That was Charlie hadn't written that, hadn't scripted that. So the boys, what they were heckling is probably what they actually believed and what they actually felt at the time, And like you say, it's done with great humility, isn't it? They are laughing at their older self being on stage, and it worked quite well. And also the room, Mike Barson was very, very keen for it to be as realistic as we wanted it to look like a set, a theatre. We wasn't trying to make it look like they were in a house, but the whole idea was that it was a theatre production. But Mike was very keen to make sure that we had things on the walls and album covers all over, which were based on what he was listening to at the time and what was on the walls in his London house. And so that was really important. That the boys were very keen on that, and obviously the story of Suggs going off to see the Chelsea match is exactly what happened, and that's why they decided to get rid of Suggs and to audition new singers. So it was all pretty much based on fact, really.
Well, they did such a good job with it too, because it wasn't sappy at all. I mean, these are stories that if you are a Madness fan, you probably know a lot of the history, right? There was Madness Take It or Leave It. There were a couple of books about it. And yet it was still fresh, the way that they approached it. And whoever came up with that rockabilly, disco, heavy metal, whoever came with that is absolutely brilliant. I laughed every time Woody yelled heavy metal.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie's script, but a lot of the ad libs and a lot of the one-liners, Chrissy Boy was quite involved in as well, and that organically grew in the rehearsals about a week before we went to London Palladium, because the boys are not great at rehearsing. They're not the hardest working band in the world. They'll come in, they'll do 3 or 4 hours work. Some bands I'll do 8 or 10 hours, But they were, in fairness to them, they were rehearsing musically, but they were also thinking about the script and how they were very concerned, or they did not want it to come across that it was so scripted that they were acting. That Charlie gave them a direction and they went off, but they also then went off at tangents as well and brought their own humour and they stamped their own personalities on it as well, which I think came across really well. And even Weller bought into that as well. When Weller says at the end, "I'll let you know," that was great, because that's, in a way, that's Weller's. Weller's got an ego as well, and he doesn't want all these fans to necessarily think that he's auditioning for Madness in reality. So by him sort of like off the cuff saying at the end, "I'll let you know," was just so funny and so dry, and the boys really enjoyed that as well.
All right. If only Suggs had stayed at the football.
Who knows what might have happened?
Could have been a real band.
They tell me I'm a pie up in the sky, waiting for me when I die. Between the day you're born and you die, never seem to hear you cry. So as long as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share of what's mine.
I haven't really done much work on the American tour yet because I'm waiting for this pandemic to get resolved. I don't want to spend any more money because we spent so much money on the last US tour before it got cancelled, like the US visas, like literally a hell of a lot of money. And also we booked all our flights, and so we're already in the hole quite a bit. So I don't want to go too soon and start planning and preparing the tour. And so I know for sure that we're definitely, we are coming, but God knows, who knows. So I just want to just be careful and not go too soon,
So you don't get into being a tour manager, wouldn't gather, without being an outright music fan. So just for the sake of it, name 2 or 3 of your favorite non-Madness pop acts.
Okay, well, I think one of the artists, I don't know if you guys are going to know this artist, but the boys, the Madness boys, and all the punks were hugely influenced by this band. It was a band called Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
They're a band from an area of England called Canvey Island in Essex, and they were huge between, say, 75 and 80, and bands like Ian Dury and Madness and even Sex Pistols and everybody was hugely influenced by Dr. Feelgood. So, you know, in bands, I mean, like New York Dolls as well, and bands like that. So, and Jay Giles band and people like that. So that was my first. Love, to be honest with you. And then, you know, I'm trying to think what else after that. Really, I mean, I was a huge Bowie fan, and that was a dream to work with David Bowie for me. What else? Who else? I mean, I've got a very eclectic taste of music. I like everybody really, but yeah, I mean, Bowie, Peter Gabriel. Yeah, I can't really. I mean, so many bands. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. But I mean, that's how I got into the industry really, but because of Dr. Feelgood. I was going to see them as a kid, and I was always. It just used to blow my mind that, you know, I used to wait for the lights to go down, and you see the little red LED lights on the amplifiers, and you'd see the band walking on in the darkness, and all of a sudden the first chord, and then the lights going on, and I could play. I mean, I was a decent musician myself, but I was never good enough to be professional, and so doing this job, you know, is the closest I can get to it, and I genuinely love working with musicians. I mean, I pinch myself sometimes, some of the amazing, talented people I've worked with, and it's been difficult the last 15, 18 months, but I'm hoping that we can get through it and start performing again.
We can't wait. Okay, off-topic question. What is your ginger pumpkin kitty's name? Because I saw his tail earlier.
Oh, right. That's Christopher.
Christopher.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good name. I
Yeah,
haven't named
Christopher is, yeah, he was my son brought him home. He didn't tell me he was bringing him home, but yeah, so he's Christopher. He's getting on now. I think he's about 11 years old, but he's still quite small. He looks like a kitten, but he's probably about my age in real terms now, like an old man.
Got anything else, Polly?
I'm there. I do. And cut this out if you'd like to, Lori. I had the good fortune of seeing ELO a couple of years ago, and I just
I like it. I love. Well, I was going to mention ELO because my sorry, before you tell your story, my wife's mother was a huge ELO fan, and my wife, I got tickets for. They played Wembley Stadium about 2 years ago, and it was incredible. And my wife and all her family went. It was kind of almost as a tribute to my mother-in-law, and no, huge ELO fan.
Well, being a tour manager, you'll probably appreciate this. I do have the Wembley DVD, but something that's so integral in ELO is that massive production sound that they've got. And they replicate that so well in concert. It's got to be an amazingly technical show.
Too well, though, perhaps, yeah.
It depends. It depends.
I don't know. I mean, listen, I mean, listen, first of all, they have, without getting too technical and boring, all your American listeners, but they also have an incredible front of house sound engineer called Gary Bradshaw, who's one of the best in the business. So he makes them sound, first of all, the band are amazing. I mean, I know all of the band very well. Mike Stevens is the musical director, Donovan on drums, and people, and obviously Jeff is incredible as well. But the front of house guy is amazing. But yeah, I'm just not quite sure how they quite get some of them huge orchestral sounds. But yeah, the sound and the production was impeccable. But our boys do okay as well.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to catch the Sound of Madness tour. And I thought one thing that Madness did really, really well was incorporating the backdrop screens, which everybody does now. But it really accompanied the the band in the song selection, and it wasn't overdone. You know, if you've seen some big, I guess a couple of big stage shows recently, I've seen Depeche Mode and Iron Maiden for two ends of the spectrum there, and it's all about the spectacle.
Yeah.
And it's all massive. Madness doesn't really rely on that much, which I think is absolutely fantastic, because you want it to be all about the music. So I thought the production was just fantastic on the Sound of Madness.
Yeah, we spend quite a lot of money on the LED screens, the video, and again, I keep mentioning his name, and he should be paying me really. But Chrissy Boy has a lot to do with the imagery that's on those screens. He really worked hard on that kind of stuff. But I mean, yeah, you're right. I think you just got to have a middle ground. You don't want to. One thing is what Suggs doesn't want is to constantly see the audience not looking at him and not being with him and all looking at the screen behind him. That's not great. And I do find that a lot of productions lose that. There's people, you know, I just think it's such a shame to go and watch a concert and just be staring at a 40 by 20 screen all night long, especially when the band are up there giving everything, you know. So yeah, I think there's got to be a happy medium. Some bands find it, and some bands use it because they're not doing too much else on stage, you know.
Well, and also I think Madness, it wouldn't be true to who they are if they had, you know, a lot of, you know, like ELO with the big spaceship and, you know, all this other kind of stuff. I mean, that's not genuine. That's not who Madness are, you know. So I think they really stay true to themselves.
Well, that's why the way that, you know, last year, was it 18 months ago, we did the Electric Ballroom, you know, because we had the was you aware of that show, guys? It was the little venue in London where they more or less started, and they kept the ticket prices the same as what they had in 1979 or whatever. So I think it was £2 or something like that. And they were on a stage that was like 14 foot wide by 10 foot deep. So, you know, and they did an incredible show. So we don't need all the, you know, the dancing girls and the pyros and the video. We'll use it if we have to, and you know, but we're quite happy to also do small intimate shows as well, and be quite confident that the band's repertoire and the musicianship will get the band through, you know.
Staggering home, everybody sing all the old songs that company routine, all the young women, all the young men, try changing places in the bank again. It's old man in the morning, young men at night, breakfast full of wisdom until you hit the light.
So now I'm curious, in a couple of weeks, Polly and I are going to be doing a 2-part episode on the Liberty of Norton Folgate.
Oh.
Did you have any involvement at all with that stage show that they did at the Hackney Empire or any of that?
No, that was one of the ones where I was away with another artist, and that's one that Andy would have done. But what I did do, not last summer, the summer before, was we did the Kenwood House show with a 40-piece orchestra. So I put that all together for the band with them, of course. But I got the orchestra in, and we started with the overture of Norton Folgate. And do you know what? It was incredible. It was filmed. We filmed that show. I don't know if are you aware that that show was filmed? And that is Chrissy directed it and produced it with the management company, and that was one of the highlights working with the band. This band with 40-piece orchestra playing some of the Norton Folgate stuff was just incredible.
And that really has to be very challenging, trying to coordinate everything with all these additional players. I mean, it's enough, I think, having the 6 or 7 guys that you're trying to coordinate, and your horn section and your percussion, but now you have this 40-piece orchestra. I mean, logistically, wow.
And yeah, it's
Wow.
it's weird because obviously Suggs used to be in the conductor of the band, and so even Suggs, even Suggs couldn't conduct a 40-piece orchestra. But I mean, doing the rehearsals for that was just spine tingling. I mean, hearing, I mean, even the band, you know, the band they've been there and done most things, you know, but even they were so excited about that show. It's probably the most exciting thing they've done for quite a number of years. You know, they've done some great stuff. They did the Buckingham Palace rooftop, did the Olympic Games, but I would say musically, that was the highlight of their career for many years.
Now I'm going to have to go check that one out because
it's incredible, and it was a beautiful night. We had a great audience. Even our friend Liam Gallagher was on the side of the stage, loving it. And no, it was for me. I was buzzing. It's one of the greatest things I've ever done. I'm so proud to have done it with the guys.
That's amazing. And really, I mean, it's a testament to you and to the other people, you know, working behind the scenes, because I mean, you know, I think a lot of people don't realize how much is really involved in putting together a successful live show, let alone a tour. But we're really excited over here for the tour. We really are. Everybody I know who's a Madness fan, we're all really buzzing about it. So we can't wait. Really,
you're going to love it, and we're really looking forward to meeting up with all the fans. It's going to be fantastic, and I'm also looking forward to seeing you guys as well.
Good song, that. I've heard of any home and I want to do. I can't think of it about it today. A root bang diddly bonker do do day. M-A-D-N-E-S-S. Yes, and what have you got?
Wow, that was really great, wasn't it, Polly?
Yeah, that was great. I had no expectations, didn't really not know what Steve was going to talk about. But boy, he hit on a lot of stuff that was really interesting to me. And thankful that he was here.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, again, thank you so much for joining us and for chatting with us today. So our closing song today, Polly, actually, I went to one of our other Stateside Madness administrators, right? We have 4 people on the team. So I went to Bobby, who is one of our, I guess, I don't know what his formal title is. Does Bobby have a title?
Bobby is our, wow, he's like our liaison from the English beat. He works very closely with them and knows a lot about the ways of social media for bands and stuff like that. So he decided to join on with us, and it's been fantastic having him around.
Yeah, so he recommended this cover. I had not heard this before. He recommended it. So this is a band in Oakland, California. Speaking of the American tour, right? There's going to be 2 days in Oakland. Oakland, California band called Cartoon Violence. It's kind of cool. I kind of dig it. So we'll listen to it on our way out. Thank you again for listening. Tune in 2 weeks. We're going to do the first of 2 parts on the Liberty of Norton Folgate.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's going to be a big one.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I've been looking forward to this for months. I hope it meets my expectation. So thank you again for listening. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Go get a beer, Stateside Madness.
morning, miss.
Can I help you, son?
16 today, and up for fun. I'm a big boy now, so they say, well, if you said I'll be on my way. Bust up balloons with a Fred-like touch. Back to party poppers, step up in the night. Two birthdays like classic rooms, guy in the corner just walked in. Welcome to the house of fun, now I'm come of age. Welcome to the house of fun. Welcome to the lion's den, temptation's on its way. Welcome to the house of... No, miss, you misunderstood. 16,
Big boy.
compliance, fine, my manhood. I'm up to date, thanks to day, so if you serve me on my way.